Blessed are the ones who grieve, the ones who mourn, the ones who bleed. In sorrow you sow, but in joy you reap. God believes in you. Oh, God believes in you. God believes in you.
Thank you, David and Susan. Wow. Well, I'm not sure that much else needs to be said. But that's what I do, so you know I'm going to say something. Oh, well, thank you again. That was just quite beautiful and so true, so true. It's so valuable to recognize and to know that there's this power, there is this energy, there's this force, there is this divine creative flow that is all of the intelligence of the universe, all of the love of the universe, all of the life of the universe, all that is, and that loves you. And it is an expression that comes in and through you. And it's just a powerful realization and awakening to know that we're a part of this, that we get to be a part of an amazing creative process that's going all the time. And it works in and through our hearts and our minds. It works in and through our thinking processes. It works in and through our feeling processes. It works in through our physical being. And it's always at work to bring about something even richer and more beautiful and more wonderful. That's what it is. It's a process that's continually ongoing to bless. That's what the divine is for me. And I believe that it is the same for everyone. We may not always see it or understand it or recognize it in the same way, but there's something going on. I love that song. There's something going on, right? There's always something going on. As Lily Tomlin used to say, it's always something. Always something. Well, there's always something going on, and I think it's valuable for us to begin to recognize how we are a part of that and how we can do that in an aware sort of way, to be conscious of our participation in this blessing that's going on, this love that's happening in our lives, this love and this power of life and health and wholeness and possibility and abundance and joy and peace. All of that is available and ongoing, and it's continually trying to express in different and unique ways. Otherwise, none of us would be here. Look around you. That is what this is about. See, you and I are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws. I'm going to say that again because that's such a powerful awareness. We are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws. So when we think about that awareness, I kept coming back to different thoughts and ideas about something that's happened recently. And I keep getting reminders and flashbacks, you might say, of this amazing experience that I had. And I shared with you last week that I had the great opportunity of going to Edwin Gaines Retreat Center. And at the retreat center, it was a program it was specifically for ministers. And it was a powerful experience in developing and deepening our faith in the divine as the source of our good in life, and source of good in all aspects of life. And part of that process, I had an opportunity to go through a fire walk. And I asked last week, I know that some of you have done that. How many of you in this group have done a fire walk? There are a few. Yes, wonderful. We got about 3. It is an amazing transformative experience. And I want to share with you some thoughts and some ideas and some insights that I've gained from having that experience. Before I do, I always have to have a story, right? So I got some stories here. Walking up to a department store's fabric counter, there was a very attractive young woman. And she said, I want to buy this material for a new dress. And how much does it cost? And the guy at the counter kind of smirked and smiled and said, well, only one kiss per yard. And not taken back by that harassment, the woman said, well, that's fine, I'll take 10 yards. And so the young man was, with expectations and anticipation written all over his face, the clerk hurriedly measured out the yards and wrapped the cloth and held it out teasingly and then leaned forward. And she looked over and pointed at an older man standing next to her and says, my grandfather will pay for it. So my lesson this week really has been about, and what I've been hearing a lot about, is the idea of expectation. And I've come into some real different thoughts and ideas and awarenesses about expectation. I came across another wonderful story. There was kind of a silly story about an elderly couple who had, they were from Scotland. They'd never flown before, but they decided that they're going to take a visit to their children in New York. And so they're flying and they see their grandchildren there for the first time. That's what they want to do. And so they're in this charter flight from Lockheed. It's a TriStar, 3-engine airplane. And they're about halfway over the Atlantic Ocean, and the pilot comes on the air, and the pilots can be very calm, about these sort of things. But they says, folks, I don't want to alarm you, but we've lost one of our engines. But don't be concerned, we have 2 engines, and that will take us, and it's not a problem at all. This plane is made to fly with that in that way. And so he said, but I will have to tell you that it's going to delay our trip for about an hour. We're going to still be in the air for another hour. So they thought, okay, well, So a little bit later, pilot comes on the air again and says, folks, I want you to be calm, everything's fine, but I do need to let you know that we've lost another engine. And so we're flying on 1 engine now. And so I'm really sorry to tell you that it's going to delay we're going to be fine, but it's going to delay our flight at least 3 hours. It's going to take 3 hours longer to get to New York. And the lady looked over, the grandma looked over at Grandpa and says, boy, I sure hope we don't lose that other engine, or we're going to be up here all day. Expectations, right? So I really thought about expectation, and as I was meditating on it this week, I kept getting little insights and awareness, and I looked up the definition in Webster's of expectation. And the one that really jumped out at me is a belief that something will happen or is likely to happen. Something that will happen or is likely to happen. It's a feeling or belief about successful good. It's someone or something will be in our experience or in our life. And to me, as I really reflected on this, it occurs to me that what we're really talking about here is a particular quality or ability that you and I have, and that is to expect. And there's a real power in our ability to expect. And that power really brings together our power of faith, our power of imagination, and our power of will. And we talk about the different 12 powers, and every Christmas season we do a wonderful ceremony and service about our 12 divine qualities and 12 divine powers. And each one of us has these unique, special abilities, but all of us have all of them, but we express them in unique ways. And they combine in unique ways. And one of the ways that we develop this idea of expectation has to do with our faith, and it has to do with our choices, our focus, you might say, and it has to do with our willingness, and it has to do with our imagination, what we're choosing to see, what we're focusing on. We are in the process of developing and creating experiences in our lives based upon our expectations. You realize that? And we have a tendency to direct our expectations in ways that are not always in the way that we would like them to come forth. Wouldn't you agree? we have a tendency, I remember when I was in college, I remember I got just a real clear awareness, and my philosophy used to be, expect anything, but don't expect too much. And it was an interesting philosophy, and I lived by that for a lot of years. And then I really began to get different understandings about the power of my own creative thoughts. And I began to realize that that philosophy doesn't necessarily serve me the best. Because the reality is, I think we want to expect amazing, amazing things. Not just hope for them. See, that's an important distinction that I think is valuable for us to make. I think it's a valuable distinction to make between hope and expectation. Now, hope is valuable. There's nothing wrong with hope. There's a value in that. But there seems to be something of a wishing kind of quality to hope. And that's okay. As long as we're focused in a positive direction, that's fine. But I'm going to suggest to you that expectation is more of a certainty. You know, I think about my experience of the firewalk. And when I think about that experience, I remember, it's funny, I didn't remember it while I was doing it, but I remembered afterwards. They gave us instructions, very good instructions. That was a good thing, you know. They gave us some very clear instructions, and it occurs to me that these instructions are incredible, valuable instructions for our ability to demonstrate or create experiences in our lives. So the first instruction, the first thing that they taught us to do was to pay attention. Always valuable, pay attention. To really pay attention and notice what's going on. We were going through this ritual, and as we walked around and around this circle of these amazing, bright red, glowing coals, they were as bright as my lovely wife's blouse this morning. They were just intensely red, and I know I had anxiety about doing this. I would be foolish not to have some anxiety. The mind tells you this is dangerous, right? And there is danger there. There's no question about it. And so one of the things that they taught us was pay attention. And part of what we're paying attention to is not only what we're wanting to do, paying attention not only to our desires and our intentions, but also what comes up about that. There's a value in acknowledging and paying attention to what comes up. But then there's also a value in the next step. And the next step is expect the good. So when you're getting ready to walk on fire, and that is a great metaphor for whatever you're dealing with or going through in life, you don't necessarily have to walk in the coals, although I recommend it. I think it's fantastic, and I'll do it again. I have no doubt. But just think of this amazing, wonderful opportunity in whatever's going on in your life. Two things. First, pay attention to what's going on. Notice what's going on, but mostly notice what's going on inside of you. What's going on inside in your own thinking? What's going on inside of you in your own energy, your own feelings? What's the energy that you're holding about the experience? What's coming up for you? And it doesn't mean that you run away from it, but you do notice it. You see, attachment is really a fear of not getting what we expect or what we desire. That's what an attachment is. And when we become attached to things looking and being exactly the way we think they're supposed to be, we've really moved out of faith and we moved into fear, haven't we? It's really a fear of not getting what we think we want, and it's a fear of not experiencing what we've set forth as our desire and our intention. It's a fear of not getting our goal. And so we do things to try and make sure that we're going to get it. So we think that we bring up all these anxieties and fears, that somehow that's going to get us closer to where we want to be. The reality is it's actually this kind of push-me, pull-me experience. We have a desire for something, we have an intention, we set out a goal, and at the same time we're afraid of not reaching that goal, so the law of attraction basically resonates with our energy, and so we've got this mixed energy. We're moving toward a particular desire or goal, but at the same time we're pushing it away because we're afraid. And part of the art, I think, of really tuning into our faith and that real essence of expectation is learning how to diminish the fears and raise the excitement and energy of the possibilities. So the 2 steps so far. Now the 3rd step they gave us is probably one of the most valuable and most important. And that is, just do it. When you find yourself faced with a fire, first do your inner work, listen to your guidance. But then when you've listened to your guidance and heard that this is the thing to do, to move forward, do it. And the 4th one is then take the very first step. You don't have to make the whole journey, but take the first step. And so it's so valuable for us to recognize that part of what we're doing here is we are, when I had this opportunity to do it, I got a very clear feeling and knowing that it was safe for me to cross these coals and not get burned. And that was part of the thing that I asked. Can I cross these coals and not get burned? And I got a very clear yes. Very clear yes. The valuable thing also, of course, when I saw others that had already done it, that always was helpful, you know. So in my mind, I could see that that was a possibility. So I'm using my imagination to see myself doing this. And when I finally decided to take that first step, there was actually no question in my mind that I was going to be able to walk across these coals, reach the other side, reach the hands that were out there to support me, step into the little pail of water, and not be burned. And I can't tell you how I knew that. I just knew it. It was an expectation of good. And I think that's really what we're doing oftentimes, but oftentimes we're doing that in reverse. We are catastrophizing. We oftentimes find ourselves thinking about, remember that series of books that came out a few years ago, the worst case scenario? Remember those? Anybody read those? They had these series of books, and very popular, obviously. I never actually bought the book because I just didn't believe in that approach. But I saw, I mean, it was like, they had 3 or 4 of them that came out. There was a series of them, worst case scenario. And then they had worst case scenario in something or other, and other different circumstances and situations. So it was like a survival guide, and it was telling you what are the worst case scenarios. What do you know? How if you can think about the worst and you can deal with that, then everything is okay. Well, I tend to follow a different philosophy. I really like to encourage people and myself, what's the best possible outcome here? Because the reality is, if we're focused on the worst case scenario, we're putting our creative energy into the worst case scenario, aren't we? But if we're thinking about, well, what's the best possible outcome here? What are we putting our energy into? Now, it may not be exactly as we imagined it, but I can assure you it's going to be more like what we're looking to experience if we're focusing our energy on the worst case scenario. Came across a little write-up on a study of Duke University. There's a group at Duke University studied peace of mind and the factors that they found that contribute greatly to emotional and mental stability. One is the absence of suspicion and resentment. Nursing a grudge was a major factor in unhappiness. Can you imagine that? Not living in the past. It says an unwholesome preoccupation with old mistakes and failures leads to depression. Number 3, not wasting time and energy fighting conditions you cannot change. Cooperate with life instead of trying to run away from it. These are all good. You should do. Yeah. Number 4, force yourself to stay involved with the living world and resist the temptation to withdraw and become reclusive during periods of emotional stress. Anybody know about that one? Yeah, we all do that to some extent, don't we? But the reality is we actually become happier if we resist the temptation to withdraw. You know that? And then 5, refuse to indulge in self-pity when life hands you a raw deal. So accept the fact that nobody gets through life without some sorrow and misfortune. It's true. We do have challenges at times. We go through them. We do experience pain. And as I said a few weeks ago, it's important to distinguish between pain and suffering. Pain is something that we do experience. Suffering is the decision we make about the experience, isn't it? It's something of the mind. Number 6, cultivate the old-fashioned virtues: love, humor, compassion, and loyalty. And 7, do not expect too much of yourself. Interesting. When there's too wide a gap between self-expectation and your ability to meet the goals you've set, feelings of inadequacy are inevitable. So this is another idea about expectation. But I would suggest to you that this kind of gets back into the realm of attachment, doesn't it? So if you set really high expectations of yourself, oftentimes you'll find you don't meet those expectations. That's not a problem unless you're attached to meeting those expectations. Isn't that true? So it's not that we don't set expectations. We all have expectations of ourselves. But if we demand ourselves to be that way, we are not experiencing a healthy state of mind. We're experiencing a state of mind that actually is demeaning us. And we automatically are going to become depressed by the very fact that we've set an expectation. We're not in that expectation. There's a lack of congruence. But then we judge that as something about us rather than simply that we're in a process of moving toward our desires and goals, our expectations. You follow me? So if we become attached to being there, then we're going to set up ourselves in perfectionism. And, you know, we all know what perfectionism does. You know, perfectionism really automatically makes us wrong, doesn't it? How many of you like being wrong? It's a real good thing, then. What if I were to tell you that you're not? Even if you don't make it to that expectation, you're not wrong. We're not wrong. We're just in process. And there's something that goes on that's always moving us to another experience of possibilities. And number 8, find something bigger than yourself.
The audio level seems to have dropped way off. I don't know why.
Self-centered, egotistical people score lowest in any test of measurement of happiness. Found something bigger than yourself. And I'm going to suggest to you that even beyond that, not just finding something bigger than yourself to believe in, but getting to a place where you really do know that there's something bigger than you, as our song said, that believes in you. There's something greater that is always there to lift you higher. There's something within each and every one of us that we can turn to in our times of stillness and silence that will help us to move beyond our own limiting thoughts and ideas and beliefs. There's something that can move us into a whole nother level of experiences in life that will lift us beyond the physical human laws, yes, even I think of physics. Julie was saying the other day that I think somebody needs to start a program for teaching people to walk on water. I think that's probably the next step in our evolution, and I do believe it's possible. I'm not at the place where my expectation is that I can do it right now, but I'm working on that. And I do feel that it's not just a metaphor. I think that we are actually, it's amazing to me the things that humans have been able to do that were thought impossible at one time in life. You know, you and I take it for granted that people have walked on the moon. We absolutely just take that for granted nowadays, except for those of you who say it's all a hoax, and I don't think it was. I think it's real. We just take that for granted now, don't we? But just think about how that was when we were younger. What a dream that was. What a valuable dream it was. It was an expectation of possibility. I'm going to suggest to you there are even more expectations that we can have, not just for ourselves, but for our for the human race. We have the possibility of feeding the world's people. I don't think it's just a dream. I think it needs to be an expectation. I believe we have the possibility of being at peace, of releasing war, of letting that whole idea that somehow we have to fight and hurt and kill each other in order to have our needs met. I believe that we're evolving into a place where that's certainly a possibility. I believe it's possible for us to actually get along. Isn't that a great vision to have? I think it's not just a vision. I think it's something that we want to expect for ourselves and for the future. I know that it's possible for each and every one of us to experience the abundance of the divine. And I don't think it needs to be just a wishing and a hoping. I think it's something that we can expect. Jesus said, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. And so what I'm going to invite you to do, I'm going to give you some homework. The homework that you have for this week and probably for a little longer perhaps, our homework is simply to practice expecting the good in our lives. Can you do that? It's a lot more fun than practicing the worst case scenarios. And I'll assure you, you will find that as you are practicing experiencing an even greater good in your life and your experiences, looking for that, looking for opportunities to see that and experience that, looking for the presence of the divine, looking for the good manifesting in different ways, you're going to find that a lot more of your experiences are going to reflect that. It can't help but. It's the law of attraction, right? So there's our homework for the week. Take some time to have fun with that. Let that be a part of your meditation for the week. What am I expecting in this circumstance or situation? What are the greater possibilities? What good can come out of this experience? Where can I see a blessing? Where can I experience a healing? Expect the unexpected, but expect the unexpected to be good in your life. It's fun to have the unexpected. And know that there's a blessing coming through all of the experiences in our lives. Will you have fun with me with that? That's our homework for the week. Let's move into our meditation time.